Welcome to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. Also my YouTube channel, which is No State Project, which you can get at by going to markstevens.net. And this is the February 10th edition of the live show. 3 hours of Anarchy Radio. Count them, 3 more. Well, actually 2 more hours of content that will get loaded and get up after the show. And also the video, which will probably just have graphics. We'll have to see how it looks. Because for some reason, it never comes out that it's synced up. And it's a real pain in the neck to try to sync audio and whatnot when you don't have a separate... Anyway, but I'm glad to be here from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. It is, again, February 10, 2018. We'll be live with another hour. And this is a straight full hour of Anarchy Radio on Wednesday broadcast right here on my YouTube channel, which won't have any commercials, which is commercial-free, which is nice. So I also want to thank Bao for his support of the show. We can say that this particular show is brought to you by Bao, who is fighting the monster in Tarrant County, and I'm almost done with the video. I should have that up today of the tyranny spotlight for she's been mentioned on the show quite a bit, but she deserves it. Cheryl S. Hardy, who put Bao in jail for asking a question. You see, you're supposed to be making a voluntary and intelligent plea, and he had been challenging jurisdiction by asking questions, which is what we do here. And which is why we're so effective, because we bring out contradictions. We're able to cut through all the BS, all the vague crap that politicians want to shove down your throat and get you to accept. Well, I assure you we have jurisdiction over you. Really? That's a pretty bold and vague statement. So when you start breaking that down, it of course falls apart. So Bao had asked the monster Cheryl Hardy, and yes, she's a monster, if jurisdiction was an element of the charge. It's a pretty basic question. And instead of just answering that, see, that's one of the things. You're supposed to be informed of the nature and cause of the charges and proceedings against you so that you can enter a voluntary and intelligent plea. And we do that by asking some questions, because they're not going to give that to you. Well, when you plead guilty, they tend to tell you all the things that they're supposed to do for you. But they're not going to really inform you of the things that are really important. They're not going to inform you of anything that tends to destroy the prosecution's case, because the judge is helping to prosecute you. So he asked this question, and he had was held without bond, nonviolent offense, and had to get a psychological evaluation from the illustrious Dr. William Barry Norman. I found out that was his full name. A PhD psychologist. And 5 minutes. So I had spoken with Mark Flake, who is a public information officer there in Tarrant County, and he didn't like that I expressed that I thought it was a bit suspicious that someone in for a nonviolent offense who is not accused of anything violent, that a psychological evaluation would take 5 minutes. So he had to, he had to offer something. So, well, I think that's fine. You can do a psychological evaluation in 5 minutes. Like, really? 5 minutes? And so he throws out there, well, dementia. I said I could talk to somebody and within 5 minutes know if they have dementia. I'm like, really? As opposed to a recent head trauma? Really? You can tell the difference in 5 minutes. Maybe they had a stroke. You don't know. 5 minutes? But that's what his job is. And that's why I hate that. Well, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a psychologist, and I can't make it. Look, everybody, I hate that. I hate when someone throws that out. Very simple. Very simple. If somebody asks you a question in the middle of a court proceeding, or at the beginning, or it doesn't matter, in a court proceeding, and you're asking, a layman is asking if jurisdiction is an element of the charge, that is not grounds to question somebody's mental health. I don't give a damn who you are. That's not grounds. So anyway, I have not heard back from the county attorney there. They're supposed to give me a call back and let me know if the judge has given any information. So what kind of communications does the monster Hardy have with this fantastic psychiatrist or psychologist, this Dr. Norman, what communication was given? What did she relay to him that why Bao was allegedly needing to have a psychological exam? So anyway, when I will get that video hopefully up today, we'll finally have that. And gosh, this is, look, I'm not a fan of Trump. I'm really not. It's just, and everyone knows my opinion about the media, if you knew. I don't believe a word the government says. It's always got to be double-checked. And I'm very skeptical of anything the mainstream media says. This is a clear-cut example. It's the New York Daily News that a former judge has pled guilty to human trafficking charges, which includes children. And it's like most of the focus of this article is the fact that this Tim Nolan supported Trump, and Trump backs him. So it talks about a Trump-supporting Kentucky man. Really? Isn't really the focus should be that a former judge is pleading guilty to felony counts and misdemeanor charges of human trafficking, including children? Yeah, he may have been an enthusiastic Trump backer, but what the hell does this have to do with Trump? There are a lot of legitimate reasons to not like someone like Donald Trump. So I don't get why it's the Daily News. I don't get why they have to start it off, and the headline is Trump backing former judge. Is everybody who's associated or backed Obama or George Bush, is that going to be the headline if they're arrested? Bush backing or Obama backing former, senator or judge or prosecutor pleads guilty to well, and I'll put this out there. A lot of people plead guilty not because they're guilty, but it's because of the intense heat and, of course, being accused of something like that. Now, I don't know the facts. I don't know the details. I don't know if there's enough prima facie evidence to make a reasonable determination that he may be guilty. I don't know. I'm just bringing this up because it's a former judge. And it's amazing. I guess that's why he's going to jail at all, that he's charged at all, because that's the big thing. It's not his connection to Trump that's the issue. It's the former. So you could probably be pretty certain that if he was a current judge, he wouldn't have been charged at all. Because, hey, I remember I'll have to get the details of this. I can't remember the names right now, but there was a judge in the west side of Phoenix, a justice of the peace, where not nearly as much power as a county judge or state judge, where he had a pretty bad case of narcolepsy. And it took years to get this guy off the bench because the attorneys, yes, and including the prosecutors, they were all too afraid to say anything. The guy would just go out, and this guy, he apparently was such a tyrant and so feared, not even a prosecutor would publicly say something about it. So his name is Tim Nolan, a self-proclaimed chair of Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign in Campbell County, Kentucky. He could face up to 20 years behind bars for felony charges that include promoting trafficking of minors and unlawful transaction with minors, according to a press release from the Kentucky Attorney General's office. He was arrested in April, was later indicted on 28 felony counts and a pair of misdemeanor charges. Yeah, and wow. So, but again, they shouldn't be, Trump, should be just a footnote in this. Gee. Anyway, we'll be back here on the No State Project with your calls. You can reach me at 218-632-9399. That's 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the pound sign. So we'll get to your calls and more when we get back in just a moment. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm glad to be with you here live for 3 hours of Anarchy Radio here on the Liberty Radio Network and my YouTube channel. So, and hey, we're up over almost to 10,000.1 sub. So yeah, it seems to be we're getting a lot of new people, and I appreciate that. And so somebody mentioned in the chat that their attorney, and this is always going to be a problem, their attorney thinks the motion is frivolous because the prosecutor is complying with the request. Well, if they're two separate things. If the attorney is complying with the discovery request, great, but there's only a certain point where they can do that. And if they, because one, they can't provide the evidence because there is no evidence proving that their laws apply, which is why critics say that they agree there is no evidence and they're not required to prove that. But if they are complying too, as far as being honest about the witnesses having personal firsthand knowledge, or well, actually not having personal firsthand knowledge that the laws apply, then that's great. Then I don't see where anything is frivolous. But if they're saying that the motion, because that's where I think there's a little confusion in what I'm reading here. But the motion being frivolous, the motion is based on a lack of evidence proving jurisdiction. Even if the prosecution had evidence to overcome the motion, that doesn't make the motion frivolous. I mean, that's why I used as the thumbnail and as part of the featured button picture on the last video I did was the autistic screaming frivolous. Frivolous does not mean you're wrong. Frivolous means that is not only wrong, but it requires no demonstration, and there's an element of bad faith to it. So I just get so tired of the frivolous mantra. So once again, let your attorney see this. Frivolous does not mean in error or erroneous. Frivolous means so wrong and so lacking in good faith, it requires no demonstration. So do you understand? Clearly now, people. If your issue is the prosecution doesn't have evidence, the fact that they have to cite the evidence is enough to show that it's not frivolous. You're wrong, but it's not frivolous. Anytime you've got them doing the frivolous mantra, you know you're dealing with somebody in bad faith who just is not looking at the actual issue. Usually, I guess that's just something that lawyers are taught. So you get a $150,000 education, and what? Half of it is just sitting in a room chanting frivolous? If somebody opposes the government, you just reply, frivolous. And if they don't understand you, say it again louder. Frivolous, frivolous, frivolous. Give me a break. Good Lord. Frivolous. Well, you can reach me here, and we could talk about something frivolous at 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020. If you want to get me on Skype, it's Frank Rizzo 3. Instant message me first. Especially if you think anything on the show that I've discussed about court procedure and getting things thrown out, if you think it's actually frivolous, that it's so lacking in merit, it requires no demonstration, and that I'm exercising bad faith, I'd love to hear that. Or if you have a situation where a judge or a prosecutor has called my motion or any of the work that I do as frivolous, we could always use a good laugh here on the big show. But we're going to go to a new caller. I have area code 302. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Mark Stevens.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Sean Vickers.
We don't need last names on here. That's fine. Where are you calling from, Sean?
From Delaware.
Delaware? You might be the first call I've ever gotten from Delaware.
Yeah, it seems a lot of people around here like being slaves.
Wow. That's anywhere. Most people don't give a damn, or they just want to get along to go along to get along. Just leave me alone.
Right.
Let me have my beer.
That's what it is. It's basically just like an acceptance, so that I guess they can have I guess their thoughts are a better life, but like. And people keep telling me the thing that gets me, they say, okay, well, I'm not just going to be a criminal anymore. Okay, well, it's not up to you to decide if you want to be a criminal or not. It's whether they decide if you're a criminal or not. And that's wrong. But
yeah,
I watch your show a whole lot. And I left a couple comments on there because I've been researching this jurisdiction thing for a really long time. And I've been going back and forth to court. and challenging them on jurisdiction. I just went to court the other day and literally had an officer standing over top of me. I was sitting on the bench, and the clerk of court was telling me something, and I said, well, I would it was just the clerk of court, and it was the security officer. And the clerk of court was telling me, asking me that I want to plead not guilty, guilty, or no contest. And I kept saying, well, I don't feel comfortable entering into a plea until I know how to best defend myself. I did check the box that I was going to defend myself in court, so I have every right to know under which jurisdiction this case is being held under, so I know how to best represent myself.
Okay, but so I got to jump in here, Sean, because we got plenty of time here on the broadcast. You never want to give them the impression that you're not going to plea immediately, because it'll be used against you to support their assertion that you're refusing to plea, so that they can just go ahead, ignore your challenges, and then plead not guilty for you. So we want to make absolutely sure when they say that, say, I intend on pleading guilty today. And then you move right in. Don't ask for permission to ask a question. Never, ever, ever do that.
Right.
But you move.
I know.
You move.
That's what I got threatened for.
Okay, well, you move. I want for everyone new listening, and I'm glad we're all. We always have new listeners every week. You want to move right into, has the prosecution presented sufficient facts to show jurisdiction? You want to move right into that.
Right.
Okay. So what? All right. So what happens here? You're saying that you want to be, do a voluntary and intelligent plea, or you want to be informed. And how does he respond to that?
Oh, they threatened to put me in handcuffs and take me to prison.
Wow. So So instead of just entering a plea of not guilty, they threaten you immediately with jail.
Not only that, listen, it's recorded and everything. I was sitting there, and I said, I'm asking her questions. So this cop, she's literally screaming at the top of her lungs. So she walks over to me, and she's standing over top of me, and she's got her fingernail inches from my forehead. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, wow. I said, are you serious? I said, at what point in time did I become your slave? That's what I want to know, because that's the way you're treating me. If you're telling me that this is how it's going to go and I don't have any rights, then I'm not a free being. So, but my point, like, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, because you had mentioned like contractual law. Now, we all know that the state and federal laws are contractual law.
No. That is not true. We not only do we not all know that, enough of us so far, and more of us all the time, especially now that since you brought it up on the show, we can discuss it, more and more of us are seeing through that is absolutely not true. So let me mute you up. We're up against the break. My name is Marc Stevens. This is No Stay Project. Once again, the contractual stuff is rearing its head on the big broadcast, and we're going to have to once again go through and show that is absolutely not true. We'll be back here in just a moment, so don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the big broadcast here. If you want to join me, it's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. And the passcode is 2020 with the pound sign. Skype, as always, is Frank Rizzo 3, and then I can put you into the Skype chat, and you can do some role-playing. And we'll be role-playing after the show today. I posted the bonus of the role-playing that I helped the other day. I actually got a half hour in, some good material, so check that out. I'll try to do today, guys, but I got a lot of videos to catch up on, and I got this show to post, and, after doing a 3-hour broadcast, the pipes, I'm no Bruce Dickinson, so, you gotta keep that in mind with me, so, but I'm glad to be back here, and I want to bring back Sean in Delaware. Sean, you're saying that their laws are contracts or contractual. What evidence do you rely on to prove that is actually true, that they're contracts, or they're trying to contract with us when they give us tickets?
All right. Now, I do. You there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. Okay. It was about, like I said, it was about 5 or 6 years ago. I first started listening to InfoWars.
Oh, here we go.
I found you. I found Jehederic. I found honor your oath, just these different people. Because I was like, I really do believe something's wrong. So I started studying. Now, if you actually look at it, their laws are contractual laws, federal laws and state laws. They don't apply simply because they say they do. If someone says this is how it is and this and that, and you don't have a choice, that's like me telling you have to join Islam and you don't have a choice. It's the same exact thing. You become a slave.
Yeah, I get that, but the thing is, Sean, where is the evidence? And I'll help you out here. To have a contract, you have to have an offer, you have to have a meeting of the minds, you have to have a freely given consent, and you have to have a valuable consideration. Now.
And you know who taught me all this, Mark? You did.
Well, then.
You taught me.
Then you got to stop with this contract stuff, because the fact is they're men and women forcing us to pay them. There's nothing contractual about that.
Yes. Hold on, Mark. You taught me this, Mark. This is what I'm saying. When you went on contracts, I sat back and I thought as much as I could. And I said, you know what? There is a contract. Your contract comes in the form of you going and get a state ID. You walk in there willingly. They do not force you. You go in there, and if it's on you. Now, somebody said, that a contract is not valid if it's not fully disclosed. 50% I would agree with them, because yes, if something is held out of the contract, then that is on the company. But if it's in the contract and you refuse to read the contract and you don't see that is on you. You signed the contract. You're held liable for that, and everybody knows it because your name is on the piece of paper. But when they tell you, come to the DMV and get an ID, you are agreeing to the terms to be under their jurisdiction at that point in time, because as you know, the name is a fraud.
No, that's not. No, if you got to keep in mind, I've done shows about this. No one has presented a shred of proof about the name game that there's any validity to it whatsoever. But let's stick to this.
It's law.
What's law?
It's law. What were we just talking about? Because
we're talking about
the way that it's coming.
Talking about an ID, and turn your feet off behind you.
Yeah, because I had you on the YouTube, and it seems like it's different, but I had you clear. You keep cutting off on the phone on my end, because I got you just straight through on the phone line because I have you live time right now.
Well, there is a slight
YouTube.
There's a slight delay with the YouTube feed, so there's nothing we can do about that. But you were saying that the ID is that the ID is a contract is in their own laws. You're going to have to give me a citation for that, because I just don't. I don't see that they're putting in their laws that this is a contract.
We all know that things can't be forced on us. That things can't be forced on us. Okay.
Wait, Sean. That's absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. Even from the very beginning. Wait, let me finish. I wrote about this in Government Indicted. Even from the very beginning, 1776 and on up, okay, even before that, it was understood that slavery was okay if you didn't call it that, if you were just using people, and this includes pasty white people, even Germans. Mm-hmm. And
I know.
It was okay. It was okay to force them to build roads. Okay, that's something that was a part of English culture for a millennium, to force people to not only pay taxes, but to build more roads. And that, of course, goes way back to Roman times and before.
Hold on 1 second, Mark. I want to go back to this thought before we go too far and I get lost about the person, because yes, it is proof that the documentation that is your birth certificate is in fact fake. Your name is fake. Why? Because, and it goes back to people saying, I'm a U.S. citizen. If you were born on this land and your family has been here forever, you are not a U.S. citizen. Legally, under legal definition, what a U.S. citizen is, is someone that has a passport or permission to be here. You are an American citizen. And this goes for the documentation called the birth certificate. Legally, on document, written, it is written that a name, that these places are persons, not people. Now, a person is an entity. They were created. Okay. Now, when
but Sean, they actually have in their codes. I got to jump in before because it's like a Gish Gallop here. We got to take it one issue at a time. They have in their own codes when they break it down, and I know person has multiple meanings. It's a word of art. I get that. I get it. But it'll say right in there when you're looking at it, natural person, which is meaning it was not created by statute. They're differentiating there. They're talking about you and I. I'm not saying there's any evidence that it applies. I mean, I can write my rules apply to you. It doesn't mean anything. I don't have an army and a prison system to back me up. Okay, but this idea that the name and the birth certificate, the thing is, if you were to cross the line from, let's say, Canada into New Hampshire, they don't give a damn if you have even they don't care if you have a name or not. They still believe it's called territorial jurisdiction, and it kind of blows away all this stuff you're talking about. Without any regard to your name, without any regard to your political status, they believe that if you're physically in New Hampshire, their laws apply. They're not sitting there and wait, let me finish. They're not secretly training judges. Hey, we gotta fool everybody. Don't tell the cops. It's just between us judges and prosecutors and legislators, okay? The higher ups, the upper management. We're gonna trick everybody. No, wait, follow me here. But wait, we're going to trick everybody. We're going to make billions. Billions. Just don't tell anybody. Look, I am no lover of government. I'll be the first to say that they are a criminal organization from top to bottom, okay? And I can prove that they're criminals. This idea that they're forcing, or that they are doing things based on the name, and that there's a trust created and a set askew trust so people can sound like they're intelligent. Well, to set askew trust. What the hell does that mean, you ask? None of that makes any sense. None of it has any merit whatsoever, and it's demonstrably false, just like with just the one example I gave you. They don't pull the gun on you and then ask if you have a birth certificate. They pull the gun on you without any regard to whether you have a birth certificate or not. And that doesn't even explain the 100 years or more before they even had a birth certificate. Hold on just a moment. We're up against the break. My name's Marc Stevens. We're here on the big broadcast, unfortunately, talking about the name game again, and we'll do our best to debunk it again. So we'll be back with that and more in just a few moments, so don't go away. Oh, my gosh. The birth certificate's not a contract. It's a corporation given to you to manage. It only has one signature, and it's not yours. I want to welcome back a good mate. And he's actually in government indicted. And it's been a while since he's been on. But is it a coincidence that our friend Vin James logs on for the first time in I don't know how long, and we're getting all this Freeman stuff? I kid. All right. You see, the thing is, this comes down to the evidence, and so let's see if we can get through this. And I'm going to ask you, Sean, not to Gish Gallop me. Let's just try to take this one step at a time. There are 4 elements that are necessary for a contract, and that is an offer, a meeting of the minds, a freely given consent or agreement, and a consideration. Do you have evidence for all 4 of those that their laws are contracts, or that when they arrest you and give you a ticket that they're trying to contract with you?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. What evidence is there of a meeting of the minds that you're agreeing to the same thing?
Well, when a police officer comes up to you as Americans, the very first thing, and it says lawyers hand cards out all the time. Do not speak to police officers. The worst thing that you could do is speak to a police officer about anything. The police officer isn't the police officer isn't the jury, the judge. You know, you don't have anything to explain to a police officer. But a police officer does have to have firsthand knowledge that their jurisdiction applies to you before they can even not necessarily question you. They do have a right to question you at certain aspects. They can't ask you for your name. You don't have to provide anything. But if you look like
But do you have evidence of a meeting of the minds that the police officer? Let me finish. Wait, you got to stop talking over me. The evidence that the police officer is not only making an offer, but his offer is known to the individual that they've stopped. You have evidence of a meeting of the mind there, that the person who's being stopped knows that the police officer is trying to contract with them.
Okay, this is what I know about this, Mark. And you know, again, it all goes back to an American citizen, a natural citizen. You know, if you want to refer it to that.
You're not answering the question though. Sean, you got to please answer the question.
Okay, but
we need the evidence that the person who's being stopped there's a meeting of the minds between him and the police officer, that they're both on the same page, and one of the things that they understand is that the police officer is trying to contract with them. Do they know? Do you have any evidence that people know when they're being stopped that the police officer is actually trying to contract with them?
Okay, here it is. A U.S. citizen always should be under suspicion that they are because they are under jurisdiction. They agreed to it. They have a direct contract, meaning that the police, they don't have to have any assumptions to a U.S. citizen if their jurisdiction applies. A normal civilian, unless you are pretending to be a U.S. citizen by having an ID, they don't have the right. They don't. You don't have a contract. The only people that are under direct authority of the United States government are people that have a direct contract with them, which is a U.S. citizen. If you look at it, U.S. citizens gravely have a contract. There's definitely. Can you say that all four quotas are met with a U.S. citizen? A meeting of the minds, an offer, which is to come here to live prosperous and everything. All four agendas are met for a U.S. citizen.
Where's the freely given consent when everyone is forced to pay and comply?
I'm not saying that there's consent. What I'm saying is Americans need to defend themselves, not as U.S. citizens.
But
you're contracting up with the government when you claim that you're a U.S. citizen, and yes, they do have authority, and they do have full jurisdiction over you. That's like me coming into your house and saying, okay, well, I'm going to move this TV over here, and you can't say nothing about it. No, I'm not allowed to do that. But if that's your house, you can do that, and you know it.
But Sean, you're talking about a completely different situation where people are trying to make rules and enforce them on somebody else's property or on property that they have taken by force. And you got to keep in mind the definition of a citizen, whether it's a state or federal, is a member of the body politic owing a duty of allegiance in return for duty of protection. These are reciprocal obligations, one consideration for the other. That's Laurier versus United States. Now, if they are and have always been just men and women forcing us to pay them, where then are the reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection created? Do you have any evidence at all that there is an obligation of protection that is created?
For U.S. citizens?
For citizens or residents?
Well, the states don't offer the people any form of protection. That form of protection was written for their Constitution, where it says to serve and protect. That you can go directly look that. That is not for the community. When you ask a police officer, are you here to protect me? Their answer is always going to be no.
I get
Their
that.
job
But Sean, I get that. But and you can look even in the Massachusetts Constitution about what a citizen and body politic is. Duty of allegiance in return for duty of protection, where even the Supreme Court has a number of times, like I think it was the Dartmouth College case, that citizenship is contractual in nature. I understand that. I get it. I think he's full of crap. Mm-hmm. But it had to do with he's trying to justify what the government's doing and have it not look like a criminal organization that it is. So you have allegiance and protection. Do you have any evidence whatsoever that would even suggest that there are legal duties of allegiance in return for protection at the state and federal level?
As far as the protection part, I mean, it's like I said. I mean, I don't know where they offer protection anywhere.
Okay, good. So now, if we're at a point where there's absolutely no evidence, and there isn't, because they're just forcing everyone to pay them and comply with them, then there couldn't possibly be duties of allegiance and protection. We can't prove that. And because of that, we can't prove that there's a body politic and citizens. And because of that, you can't prove there's a government, because they're just men and women forcing us to pay them. So now that we know we're dealing with a criminal organization where you are going to comply by force and you will pay them by force, given the force, and this is a fact, this is irrefutably true, given that evidence, can you possibly then argue that they're trying to contract you when the police officer pulls you over? How can you possibly argue, and keep this, I want you to try to do this, give me a valid argument that the police is trying to contract with you, knowing that there is a force continuum that he is willing to go through up to killing you to get you to stop your car. Knowing that evidence, wait. Knowing that is the irrefutable truth, that they will go through a force continuum to get you to stop, including deadly force. Knowing that, I want you to present a valid, lucid argument that he's actually trying to contract with you.
Well, that's the thing, Mark, and that's what I said. He's not trying to contract with you because under his assumption, his right is already concrete, that he's already got that.
Okay, so all right, wait, hold on. Okay, hold on. I got to mute you up for a second. All right, I'm trying to move through this. Okay, so now make a valid argument that he's trying to enforce a contract with a force continuum.
Right. I mean, that's all it all is force. Because if you don't comply, they assault you and imprison you. And when you move, by the very definition, when you move someone from one place to another, that's kidnapping. It's no longer unlawful restraint. So not only were you assaulted, you were kidnapped and then unjustly imprisoned.
But we've already established that there isn't a contract. And have you ever spoken to a police officer and had him testify in or out of court that he believes that he's enforcing a contract? Wow, we've already blown through the first hour of the show. Hold on, well, I got to put you on hold because we're up against the break. Hold on. Does the police know that there's a contract? Okay, we'll be back here with the second of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio right here on the No Stay Project. Again, debunking this crap that it's all contractual. Man, that condo letter. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away. It just will not die. Yeah, welcome back to the No Stay Project. We're in the second of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio right here on Liberty Radio Network. That's LRN.FM, where we are live every Saturday from 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. And also streaming now live from my YouTube channel, No Stay Project. You can also just get the link by going to markstevens.net. You want to join me on the big show today? It's actually February 10th, 2018. You want to join me? It's 218-632-9399. Excuse me, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the # or hashtag, and Skype is Frank Rizzo 3. And maybe somebody could put in the chat and explain to me why in the hell I can't get the full HD video and have it in sync with the audio. I don't understand. I don't get it. You know. Anyway, we'll have the audio of this show posted today, and hopefully the new episode of the Tyranny Spotlight with Cheryl Hardy. And I've got 4 or 5 success stories that I need to post. It's just I'm getting behind on that stuff. I'm going to get back to the callers. Sean, I can't believe we're doing a show with this contract crap. But does the police officer, do you have evidence to show that police officers know or are in the impression that they're enforcing a contract?
Well, I mean, and that's like I said, Mark. You know, I don't call challenging you because I get a lot of the stuff that I learned now. You know, basically because I served 12 years in jail, and
damn,
just the thought crimes that I get arrested for, now, it's just over the top, and I really hate seeing people get pulled over and charged with this and that. Now, as far as like proof, now what I can tell you is, there's federal laws, there's state laws, and we have common law, of course, but that, you know, barely gets any play.
Because it's been displaced by statute.
Right. All I know is, as far as a federal employee, they sign a contract which directly relates to them, the federal guidelines and everything, which makes them directly inverted to federal laws. And, of course, state employees, too, because the feds were designed to be over top of the states and not have such a hand over everything. They're not supposed to be controlling the states, as we all know. The states are supposed to be controlling the states. But somehow this federalization happened, and now we got all this. But
you're not answering the question, though, Sean. We got to stay on point here. Do you have any evidence to even suggest that the police officers believe they're enforcing a contract between you and the government?
I do, yes. Why and how do I know it? And you said it before. I got it from you. Because a warrant is not proof to jurisdiction, and a warrant is direct proof to that officer that he needs to have proof to jurisdiction. Because that warrant, it is a form of proof to jurisdiction. It is. It's not the form to proof to jurisdiction, because a warrant doesn't prove jurisdiction. But it does give that officer extra leeway to say, I have a warrant, so now I have extra merit for the jurisdictional grounds that you're raising. But to begin with, did the officer even have proof to the jurisdiction for the warrant? No.
But that's not, you got to answer the question. What is the evidence that the police officer believes that he's enforcing a contract between the government and the individual he's stopping?
What makes him believe that?
Does he believe it, and do you have evidence of that?
Well, if he doesn't believe it, and that's the way it is, then apparently they're being taught wrong. I mean, I don't know, because I can't answer whether a cop, there's certain cops out there that I do believe know that they're under contractual law. Then there's police that I don't think have any clue about any of that, and they just think that what is told to them and what they were taught is the way that it is, when it's not.
Okay, so the bottom line is you don't have any evidence that the police officers believe it's a contract and they're enforcing a contract. Because I know people who have gone through the police academy and I've spoken to them. They're not taught at the police academy anything that there's contracts. If anything, if they discuss something like that, it is in the context of domestic terrorists that they call freemen on the land types or sovereigns. Okay, so wait. We've made some ground here. So the individual who's being stopped is not under the impression that a contract is being enforced. The police officer doesn't believe or know that that there's an alleged contract. So you have absolutely no meaning in the minds there whatsoever, right?
Well, because it's never on the officer's side that he would be in dispute. The dispute will come in when you didn't stand up for your rights.
But we're talking about whether there's a contract or not. And so there's no meaning in the minds between the one who's trying to enforce it. So you're trying to tell me that the judges and the prosecutors, they are under the impression that a contract is being enforced and they're going to enforce that.
No.
So the police, the prosecutors, and the judges, none of them are under the impression that there's a contract at play here.
No, they know. I've had a judge tell me directly to my face that it was a contract.
That what was a
yes,
contract?
I have, Mark.
What was a contract?
That in order for these laws to apply to me, that there had to be some form of an agreement. Well, I'm trying to think of what it said because this happened like 2.5 years ago, and I went in there and it was for terroristic threatening because something, whatever. The cop blamed me for threatening him with a gun, and I'm like, "Where's the gun? You checked you guys raided my house, didn't find any guns. You don't have it on recording. You're a liar." So, and I asked them, I said, okay, well, in order for your laws to apply, do I have to have some form of an agreement, a contract, or are these just mandatory laws that have to apply to me? So, of course, the judge skirmished around the question and everything. And I said, no, I need to know because I need to know if when I go to do business with an officer, whether I have to have some kind of an agreement to do business with them or something like that, because if not, then what you're claiming is that I'm a slave and that he is my overseer, my overlord, and I have to do everything he says, and then I have to come and answer to you. And if you don't like what I have to say and you choose to believe a biased person because he works for the state of Delaware as well as you do, which is a biased case, if you do that, then that would make you saying that, that he's my king, that I am a direct slave. And I would like to know, do we have anti-slavery laws in America? And if so, then what determines what someone is a slave? And if you look at it, a contract is a direct correlation between what a slave is, which is a worker. When you go
let's not get into the slave labor and whatnot. We don't have time to get into the whole Marxist mindset. But you're trying to, you see, what you're saying here, and it's become more another Gish Gallop. I don't believe for 1 second you were permitted to go on this rant and say that to the judge, because what you started saying that this is what you were saying to the judge, and then you just kept on going and going and going. I don't think that he allowed you to go on such a dialogue.
Hey,
okay,
hey,
so
Mark,
are you saying that you?
What I do in Delaware, like I said, when I walk into the courtroom, and this is my thing, and it all goes back to when I was a kid and growing up believing in false idols and, things like that. But when I go in there, I don't stand for the judge. I don't feel, when I stand, it literally makes me feel like he is asking me to worship him in the form of standing. I don't do it. They throw me in cells. They say that I'm insubordinate. Like I said, just 2 days ago, when I left the courthouse, the clerk of the court, because I was asking questions for my case, she labeled me combative.
Okay.
So I wanted to know, with my history and with the threat of being combative, are the police going to come to my house to shoot me because she wants to give me a capias because she couldn't accept my questions of under which jurisdiction before I enter into a plea? And
this was a clerk. And if it was a clerk, that was the problem. But just hold on a second. We're up against another break. My name is Mark Stevens. It's February 10th. We'll be back in a few more minutes with Sean in Delaware talking about this Freeman stuff. So we'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. You want to join us here on the big show? It's 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020, and Skype is Frank Rizzo 3. And I don't know if this is a serious comment or not, but my gosh, these things. Hillary went to court. The FBI stated she is operating as 13th Amendment and not in the capacity of a U.S. citizen. Show me a transcript of that. I'd love to see that. My gosh, what happens on my? Oh man. All right. I'm gonna. We're gonna go back to Sean in Delaware. I think we've already established, and you're not able to prove otherwise. No one has been able to. That there are actually citizens and that there's any contract. Not that no one's been able to show that any police officers are acting under the impression that they're that they're contract enforcers. No prosecutors or judges, and you're saying a judge said something that it maybe had your consent, but even if it was consent, they talk about complied consent all the time when it comes to traffic. It doesn't mean that there's a contract. They're not trying to enforce some kind of contract. I do want to say, I'm glad you filed the material and you find some value in it. Please don't mix my work with this stuff. I stick and suggest that we stick to using logic, and that we don't stray from the fact that the most effective way to defeat these charges and to get these things tossed out is to stick to a principle of logic that even is something that was adopted in law. The burden of proof rests on the ones making the claim. I have never seen a situation with traffic, for example, or taxes, where they actually make the claim that you did not uphold your contract. No, I have seen, and I've proven, and I've been to court many times. I've spoken to many bureaucrats on 3 continents. It is always effective to show that the accuser has no evidence by just asking leading questions, asking them to prove the claim that they're making, which is similar, which is what I did with you today, Sean, by asking you about this evidence, and you said, well, no, you don't have it. So please don't, for you and anybody else, please do me a solid. If you're going to go down this contract route, don't take me and my work with you. I'm asking as a paisan, please, don't do that. I don't want to have my work publicly mixed with what I believe is just Freeman-type garbage, and it just poisons the well.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, hold on, Mark, because it's like, all right, because I understand that you deal with a lot of brains and everything, but all right, now I don't wish to attack you in any way, but that's how it seems. But I know how you are. On the other hand, because I'm not calling you with any claims that the state has any proof, nothing like that. But because I know the show and I know how things are. I did a little streaming myself, but not too much, So plus I deal with people on a basis. Now, I'm not telling you that I'm here to prove that the state has anything. I'm just here to state, what I've read, what I've been told, what I've learned throughout my life. And like I said, I thank you a lot because I learned a lot through you. And you are the one that embarked me on my mission to find out exactly what jurisdiction was. And that's what I said. Now, if you want to get to the fruit and berries of what a driver's license is, because we all know that there's a difference between, well, again, I say we all know and we don't. And you corrected me before, and, it's something that I do, but most of the people in the live chat, we do understand. But I do know you get new callers now, or followers. But what I would say is now when you're a driver, okay, and you're in that car, that police officer does have direct jurisdiction under you, and I have proof. How? You register your vehicle. You go and do that. When you register something, if you go look it up, you will see that the proof is when you give up your property, what you get is what's called proprietary rights. You give up your ownership rights for registering something, and you get proprietary rights. When you have proprietary rights, that's the only time that you can have permission to use your property because it doesn't belong to you. Go look it up, Mark. I'm telling you, you're shaking your head. I'm telling you, go look up registry.
Yes, I'm shaking my head because it's not true. I have gone without a driver's license, and I've still gotten tickets, and they still asserted jurisdiction. And you can't say there that there's any kind of contract.
Now, you said it before. Just because you get a ticket doesn't mean that you're going to get found guilty or something is wrong.
I didn't say that, but I'm addressing the issue that you just raised about how their evidence of jurisdiction is the contract because you went and registered and you went and got the driver's license. I'm telling you, I have had cars without a registration. And this is how I started doing. This is why I got to this point here in my life. I did that with no registration, no driver's license, and they don't give a. I'm saying to you in practical terms, even by their law, they don't give a damn if you have a driver's license or if you have a name. Their jurisdiction is not based on you having those things.
The legal system in place. The same exact reasons that you're saying right now that they don't give a damn about us. They knew this back in the day because we were overrun by King George III soldiers, and they enslaved us. They did whatever they want to us, and they knew this. They knew this. They cannot do whatever they want. But if you let them, what can stop them? When a majority of the population believes that this is the way things are and this is what they're taught, the only thing you can do is believe what you're taught until you go learn. Until you embark on that first step to take your foot and walk out that front door and find knowledge for yourself like you are doing for everybody else. It takes a few people to talk.
But this stuff, but the thing is, Sean, this type of information, which is clearly without merit, hurts people and keeps them from being effective in court. This stuff is not true. If you go based on what we can, let's go based on what we can prove. Okay, let's start from there. Okay. We know that they're. We know. I got to mute you up. We know that they're men and women. We can easily prove that with observation. Okay. We know that they force everyone to comply and to pay them. They even admit this. It's not a matter of choice. You will comply or you will be killed in the process of putting you into jail and prosecuting you. Those are irrefutable, observable, objective facts. To then turn around that this group of men and women are trying to trick you into contracting with them goes against their nature. They're not trying to do that. There's no evidence. No one has ever produced a shred of evidence. And the thing is, it hurts people. We have the Meads versus Meads case, for example, which because someone consistently went into court with this crap is now being used against good people who are launching an effective defense and are being denied a trial because Meads versus Meads. And the crap, the damage that this crap does to people. We're up against a break, so we'll finish. We have one more segment with Sean. We'll be back here on the No State Project in just a moment, so don't go away. And don't do the Freeman stuff. That stuff, it just gets you into more and more trouble and get other people into trouble. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. And I'm going to bring Sean back in a moment. And Sean, I suggest you get into the No State Project chat. Vin, you got a good point about adding them into the role play. So we don't only have to spend too much more time on this on the big show. And no, I don't think that, Sean, you're calling and you're attacking me or my work. I didn't get that at all. I just wish we could put an end to this crap because I actually know somebody. I don't know if you remember this. I know a guy named Frank in Saskatoon who, and you can hate, I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking like critics can hate me and my work all you want. No rational person could justify denying Frank, who was a defendant in a criminal prosecution, a actual trial for tax evasion on nothing more than a bound copy of Meads versus Meads. And, I bring that up because this hurt this man. He was denied a trial. And no cross-examination of witnesses, no evidence put on. The prosecutor literally held up a copy of Meads versus Meads. And so it damages us, those of us who are actually launching an effective, logic-based defense against these baseless charges. Now, it's not something that necessarily is going to happen in the United States because it's a Canadian case. But it's happened, and it didn't matter that Frank didn't raise one single argument that was raised in Meads versus Meads. Not one. They used it against him anyway, so it damages people, it hurts people. So this idea that they are trying to contract with us is absolute nonsense. There's no merit to it all. There's no evidence to prove it's true. And I hope that nobody listening to the show will continue or even start. Just please never even start with that stuff. Your defense is so much better by sticking to logic and holding the prosecution to their burden. You start making all these wild legal claims. One, nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares. Two, you can't prove it anyway. Three, even if you did, they don't give a damn. So I would just say again, if do the research and whatnot, but make sure it's based on logic and it's based on evidence.
But I do want to say, they do give a damn. They do. And the proof is when you file an appeal. There's a reason for appeal. If they didn't give a damn, we wouldn't have an appeal system. We wouldn't have an overturn ratio. We wouldn't have any of that. And we do have that.
But that's for public relations. That is just to give people, that was done, I believe, to give people confidence in the system that justice would be delivered, even if the trial court didn't do that. That doesn't mean that they care, because, yeah, we have an appeal system, but that doesn't mean we get justice. I mean, I had a judge here in Phoenix 10, 12 years ago, probably more, rule that there was no right of cross-examination in traffic court. It's not true, but the appellate court didn't give a damn. They don't care about our legal opinions.
Like we all know, Marco. We all know. When you hand someone power, that power is going to corrupt. And once that power starts corrupting and they start doing things of their own accord, like these judges that are not of the judicial branch that say, post signs, you'll be arrested and charged for bringing a cell phone into the courtroom when that's public property and you can't tell me what to do with my stuff and there's no law about it,
Well, actually, there is. The judges have the court rules, and even though media is generally allowed, they do leave media up to the discretion of the individual judge. And even that there is some legal, valid grounds for that, they just take it as a blanket, I'm not letting media in here. Obviously, if you don't want a child who's been molested, you don't want them and their identity to be known, and you don't want people taking video and audio of their appearance. So, but yeah, you take one little bit of validity and then, yeah. But
recording purposes are not just for news outlets.
I get that.
For our protection. If I want to take a recording device in there to record my proceedings to help with the better defense if I get found guilty unlawfully, that's why the people are. It doesn't have anything to do with the news sources. They can cite the news sources all they want.
I know. I'm saying what I said, Sean. What I said was that they take a little sliver of validity and use that as a blanket excuse not to let any recording, because they don't let you record, because then you don't have to pay them thousands of dollars for a transcript. So I do get that, right. But we're almost out of time, and I've had John for a bit. Wow, we're already past the halfway mark of the show.
Thank you. I listen to your show all the time. I will continue to listen because, like I said, you've given me what I need to continuously try to find out the truth.
And you do that with logic, but you do that with logic and holding the accuser to their burden. You don't do that by taking things off the internet and just assuming that they're true.
We can have logic. Are they open to logic?
You're missing my point. Wait, you're missing my point, though. I'm talking about our investigation into the truth. They may not have it. I'm talking about when we're going to do something in court. So whether you're going to use material that I talk about here on the show or you're going to use somebody else's, you should subject that to critical analysis and make sure that the logic and the evidence holds up before you go into court. Now, I get that when you go into court that they don't like to use logic. They want the prosecutor to argue against us without evidence, but they won't let us. So I get that they don't like to do that. But I do want to address, before we're out of time, you mentioned something earlier, and I cannot let this go. It's too important. You were mentioning something as if it was support that there was a contract when you made the claim about never talking to the police. Now, I agree as far as never talk to the police. Not because they're trying to get you to contract, but because they can use and twist whatever you say to them. I don't think we should be aiding in our own prosecution. I think when it comes to it, never talk to the police. You have to, if you're on the side of the street, you have to protect your life. If you don't ID yourself, you're going to jail or you're going to be dead in the process. So I always suggest ID yourself and keep your mouth shut. You say on advice of counsel, I am not going to answer your questions, and don't open up your mouth again.
Right, but I do want to say this, because I take offense to not saying you disrespect me or anything, but the sovereign citizen, the free man, the Freemason, I don't know nothing about that. I don't go off of what these people say. The only thing that I can do in my life is go off of what I know from what I learned and to continue to seek knowledge to help me better understand the situation. But as far as being like, I'm on the free man, and not saying that you were attacking me or nothing, just saying, but I don't know anything about that. I don't want to be a part of that whole what's his name? I don't know what kind of names. The sovereign citizens. I know for a fact that, sovereign means of one owns free will. Citizen is one that has agreed to be a part of a society. I don't claim to be in a society. I'm not in any society, any kind of, whatever they have, their little gangs and everything.
Okay, we got to be quick. Well, I was talking about people in general. When we're researching and looking at things, especially if we're going to use that defense in court, we should do it based on logic and reason, and that we've done a full critical analysis of it. And when we have something like, well, I don't know, I think, you got a problem there. So this whole thing, and this is more than just me and you. A lot of people, new people listening. Yeah, I have to really reiterate this Freeman sovereign stuff. Bad news. It hurts people. It hurts you. Don't even try it. If investigate it, fine. I personally wouldn't waste my time on that. I got enough shows debunking that. But if you feel the need to look into that, fine. Just use some critical analysis. Challenge it. So that's what I've done. I've supported why I do things the way I do it a number of times here on the show. I bring you right to the beginning. I show the relevance of what's going to come after that. So this stuff about the birth certificate and all that, it's trash. It's trash. And nobody can show one verified success story with that. So, hey, I do appreciate the call. Got to let you go. We're up against another break. My name is Marc Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. Also streamed live on my YouTube channel on it's No State Project, of course. And we'll get to your calls. It's 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020. We'll be back in just a moment. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project for February 10, 2018. Glad to be with you here. Episode 51 coming up of the commercial-free edition of the No State Project this Wednesday. So whoever we don't get to today, but yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. It's not like Wednesday when I had more calls than we could have possibly have gotten to. But definitely check out episode 51. We'll be discussing, again, more tickets, tyrants, and assessments. And, of course, the number, if you do want to join me, it's 218-632-9399. 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the # or the hashtag. You can also Skype me at Frank Rizzo 3. But definitely instant message me first, and we should be getting another role play session. Well, they always do that. I will try to do that, but I'm so backed up on videos that I need to do. I have to get the Tyranny Spotlight going also. I have 4 or 5 success stories that I probably just put into one video. But before we get to another caller, I just want to say again, please don't mix. Don't have my work mixed. And I'm not saying that necessarily Sean was doing that, Sean in Delaware. If you're going to, look, you can either defend yourself by making legal conclusions, or you can defend yourself by attacking the arguments and the claims that the prosecution's made, and you could do both. I prefer that if you're going to do both, you don't use my material. If you think you have legal claims that you can prove are true and you think that you can actually sway them, go for it, but please don't involve my work. Just keep my work out of that. Just take your legal conclusions and try to convince them, because I don't see that happening, but at least don't mix my work in it. And it really kills me. I hate to see that this Freeman garbage being used, this sovereign stuff. You see, I'm not saying sovereign citizen like the FBI, but the sovereign stuff. This crap has hurt peaceful people. Can you imagine going in and expecting a trial, and all the prosecutor does is hold up legal arguments from another case? Say what you want, but if you're there for trial, you cannot win a criminal proceeding with legal arguments. You have to have evidence. This is not a situation where you have a civil context where there are no facts in dispute. So you don't need a trial. Obviously, if you're there at trial, facts are at issue, which is why you have the trial. And to just hold up Meads versus Meads, this is one situation where I probably would have thrown a chair at the prosecutor. Something to stop these people from hurting me. That would get their attention. Then I could get the prosecutor on the stand and I could get the judge on the stand. Try to pull this crap. You could be the most dyed-in-the-wool status supporter. There's no possible way that anybody could say that you don't need to have a trial if you've got legal conclusions from another case. No, I don't know anybody in their right mind that would say that what happened to Frank in Saskatoon was right and moral and even legal. So, he's been on the show before. We got Kerry in New Mexico. Kerry, welcome back.
Hey, how you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. I wish your audio was better.
Well, I was in the other room, and now I'm here.
Okay. I know you've been on for a while, so we had Sean on there for a bit, so nobody can really ever complain validly that I don't allow the time to flesh out ideas and for people to offer their proof, because I think we lost half the viewership, unfortunately, there.
If you listen to Sean's story, it's going to take him a while to get it. He's been incarcerated for 12 years. And, you know, the funny thing is, Mark, no matter how smart you may think that you are, it takes some people a long time to get it. Some people never get it. And some people get it right away. So, you know, God bless Sean, and I hope, you know, that his things go his way, you know.
Yeah.
But he's obviously there's a little curve there.
Well, you know, he understands. His is a different situation because he seems to understand the principles well, but for some reason, and I'll give this to some people. Some people, and I think you can empathize also with me here, that it is very stressful. And someone told me just the other day when I was questioning him on this stuff, he just felt like he wanted to throw as much at them as possible. And I'm like, I understand that, but it's not a good move. It's not a good tactical move. If you want to bury them in paperwork, do it in discovery, file motion to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct, file to change the judge. So, you know, there are valid things you can file with and keep them busy and make them realize, holy crap, this guy's not sitting down. But so there's never, all right, I'll say this, Kerry, there's never an excuse to use ineffective tactics such as legal conclusions like the Freeman sovereigns use.
No, I get what you're saying there, but I mean, I can understand. Basically, what I was getting from was his frustration of trying to do something, and then obviously, when he's at that level, he just it doesn't ever work. And I'm pretty much in a similar boat. I try really hard. I have good intent, but for lack of knowledge, I don't ever. I always lose, and that's the last place that you want to lose.
That's true. However, but Kerry, we've discussed it on the show. Part of it is that you need to get, and I know the technical issue, but you've got the Skype down. We used it the other day. You do have to do the role playing. It really does help.
Right. Well, I have some issues on the Skype. Is what's happening is I don't have any identifier that identifies myself. And last night I tried to communicate with my voice on the Skype, and it wasn't working. And then another thing is for some other reason, I tried to email you last night, and then for some reason I couldn't get on Yahoo Mail. So it took me right after midnight. I sent you out that deal that I sent you. But for some reason, we had like a 4-hour delay of trying to get things going. But while I was sitting at the computer, the Skype thing was on, and people were talking, and there was obviously some chats going on. And I tried to participate, and for whatever reason, there's something there, and I need to overcome that because the role play would be, boy, I would love to, because I'm so novice at trying to help myself. And obviously, there's people that have a far better understanding of how to.
Well, we can discuss the basic. We can discuss the basic principles to not only help you, but to help people who are new listening. And so, like what I got into a bit before with Sean, has to do with. Look, we're looking at this from an anarchist type of perspective, where we're not giving free passes to the prosecution and their claims. We're not going to accept the prosecutor's claims as true just because they do it all the time, or because most people believe it's true. And I'll give everybody that. Most people, the overwhelming majority of people, believe that the government, for all their faults, are legitimate, that there is overstepping, and that they're a legitimate organization, and they do. And when they charge you, they do have jurisdiction. I will not accept that. It may ultimately be proven true to me. No one's been able to do that. So saying them for what they are, that they're just men and women, and I think it's easier to just look at them as a private business, and then their actions really, without the facade of legitimacy, their actions really can be seen for what they are. It's kidnapping, it's false imprisonment, extortion, it's racketeering. And so from that mindset, then we're going to look at the prosecutor's claims, and we're going to remember that logic dictates we have to keep the burden of proof on the ones making the claims. Then it turns on, well, how are we going to do that? And like I've discussed so many times, we're going to ask questions using the Socratic method, and we're going to ask leading questions. And leading questions have the information in the question we're trying to elicit. Which is, so if you go back when I was talking with Sean, I was doing the same thing with him that I do with bureaucrats. He's made a certain allegation or a certain assertion, and we're going to get through and we're going to see what evidence he has to back that up. So I see you've got the chat aspect down on Skype. It's just the voice that you gotta work on. So that's going to form the foundation. We're always going to be focusing on the prosecutor's lack of evidence. So we're up against the break, so let me mute you up. So one of the things that I've noticed in the chat, and this comes up, and we have to keep mentioning this, the judge does not have a burden of proof. The prosecutor does. The judge doesn't have to prove jurisdiction. The prosecutor does. So we have to keep that in mind. The less we butt heads with the judge, obviously, the better. But we'll discuss this and more. We'll be back with Kerry in New Mexico in just a few moments, so don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the big show. Third of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio right here on the Liberty Radio Network. It goes fast, so thank goodness we have another hour commercial-free on Wednesday. That'll be episode 51 of the big show. So whoever we miss, definitely check that out. We do only have 4 segments left, and, we've got a lot more callers now. So we'll do our best to get to everybody. But again, remember, commercial-free, episode 51 this Wednesday. And same call-in numbers, all that's the same. And so I want to bring Kerry from New Mexico back from New Mexico, because you've got quite a mess that's been going on for a while. So is there anything about the basics, and the tactic that we use and the logic behind that you don't understand?
Well, I kind of get a grasp of what I need to go, and hopefully I can get this Skype to work. I have a situation Monday morning, 9 o'clock, where I have to go into court. And someone sent me some paperwork from your chat, and I would like to get, if anybody has some more stuff that I may entertain while I go into court, so that I may ask intelligent questions or something to stop the barrage of the government claiming jurisdiction and moving on against me, or pleading not guilty for me, or whatever, and just moving across and over me.
Well, you have to.
I'm just like a.
You have to make sure that you have to make sure you're objecting properly. Never, interrupt the judge. It's just going to cause a problem. Right. Treat them the way you want to be treated. Be respectful. Yes, they tend to be criminals and monsters, but still give them. Don't let that reflect on you. You still be a good person and, of course, treat them the way you want to be treated with, with respect. Because bottom line, it's not going to help you to start lashing out at them. And going off on long rants or long gish gallops like Sean may have actually done in court. I don't think he did. That's not going to help us either. We need to keep our questions short and to the point and focused. And that focus is always on the prosecution's lack of evidence. So make your objections. If they're going to insist that there's jurisdiction, then we object and we want to know, what is he basing it on? And that's why, and that's the logic behind, is it because you said so or because the prosecution's evidence did? We want to see whether it's a valid conclusion he's making. And to be a valid conclusion, the judge can only base his determination of jurisdiction based on what this litigant, this prosecutor against you, what they have presented in the file against you. It doesn't matter what anybody else is being accused with. The prosecutor, it's an individual case. Every case is fact specific. So it has to be in the record before him to be able to base his decision on. And so that's the basis for that question. We want to know, what is he basing his determination on? Is it based on evidence or just on his whim? Is it because he's biased against you or because he's holding the prosecutor to his burden of proof and trying to be fair? So remember...
Right. Well, they're definitely interesting that they hold the prosecutor to the burden of proof, and that seems to be my fallacy in the whole match, is trying to hold them to the burden of proof, other than, well, we said this and that's how it is, and,
Well, it's not your fallacy. I mean, that's what, some might consider that to be our folly, that we think that we can actually hold the prosecution to the burden of proof, which I'm not saying we necessarily can. But if we're going to have any chance of success in getting this tossed out, even if it's going to be on appeal, it's going to have to be the majority of it that the prosecution did not meet their burden of proof. And so we do that through, one of the ways we do that, like we discussed the other day, is by having the witness be declared incompetent by the prosecution and the judge. So the prosecutor can't meet their burden of proof if the witness that they rely on is incompetent. And so we've spoken about that before. And so for new people listening, we're able to do that by asking some basic questions which go to his prior testimony. We know the police officer has testified just now, and he has also made statements at the stop and on the ticket that you violated the law. So the questions to impeach him are very simple. You determined on your own that just because I was physically in New Mexico, your laws applied to me. And that gave you jurisdiction to investigate me and charge me. Yes. Then we just ask him what evidence that was based on, and they impeach the witness because he's not qualified to make legal determinations. So if he's not qualified to do that, the prosecution never should have put him on the stand, and he can't meet his burden because he didn't have a qualified witness. So that's the basis for that. That's why we're doing that.
All right, and
Okay.
that's one of the things that you're very good at, Mark, is getting in there with the leading questions and then following up with the kill shot there behind it. And that's, I think, more than anything, what something I certainly need to learn to better conduct myself.
Well, just I guess because I'm skeptical by nature. I'm from Long Island, and I just I just always tended to doubt what people were saying, and so if you just, this is part of the program too. If you just assume that what they're saying is a lie, your job is to get them to verify what they're saying. And so it makes it easier, I think anyway, to come up even on the spot with a good leading question to be able to bring it, to be able to bring out that either what they're saying is true or they're going to contradict themselves, or they're going to have to admit that there is no evidence and make up some fallacious reasoning. Oh, the prosecutor doesn't have to prove that. Okay.
Right. Well, no, I kind of like your phrase of that you need to get them to verify, their claim. That's more than anything, because once they try to verify it, well, then it's going to fall apart.
There you go. So okay, so now at least I've said something that is more in line with what your present understanding. So now you can understand it better. And I've said that on the show thousands of times, because what it comes down to, and especially when I'm talking to a critic, all I do is, I believe, is to just ask questions to get them to verify their claim. And I don't accept sacred cows. But it's that second part that really gets under the skin of critics. Why should I accept a sacred cow? Why should you or me or anyone give the prosecutor a free pass? You know, and especially like I mentioned this the other day, and it always bears repeating. For those, especially if you're new, when you step into court, relevance is king. Nothing is admissible. Nothing should be heard or may be heard unless you can show it's relevant. And nothing is relevant if the prosecution can't prove the foundation of their case, which is if you're physically in New Mexico, our laws apply. And they need proof. So get them to verify that. If the judge says he doesn't have to prove that, verify it. So really, is it consistent with due process that he doesn't have to prove that? See, you know, you have to be thinking in a broader term that this is supposed to be fair. So measure everything against that. Is it fair for him not to have to prove that? Okay. So
Right.
we're almost out of time, so I can only field one more quick question.
No, that's fine. We can move on.
Well, all right. Well, we're going to be up against a break here again, so I do want to keep reiterating how important it is to just stick to asking leading questions, and basically yes or no, unless of course you've gotten to a point where they're admitting they have facts to prove the laws apply because you're physically in New Mexico. Then you can ask them really, and those facts would be, because we already know in advance they're not going to be able to prove that. Something I was talking about just this morning. And it was, you have to also recognize when somebody's making a contradictory statement. And so the big one that I always use is jurisdiction is a pure issue of law, requires no evidence. All the prosecution has to do is show that you're physically in New Mexico. You have to be able to recognize that that is a contradictory statement so that you can properly object and bring it out. I appreciate the call, Carrie. We've got to run. My name is Mark Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project for February 10, 2018. We'll be back with your calls in just a moment, so don't go anywhere. We've got a lot of stuff to still get to. Yes, welcome back. Listening to the No State Project right here in the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona, where it's another beautiful day. Still need to find a place here in the valley where I can do the show once a month, where we can have a small audience or a large audience, get a bit of audience participation, doing some role playing, really helping some local people learn how to effectively defend themselves against these tyrants. And remember, Libertopia, I haven't mentioned, Libertopia is just in a few months, May 3rd through May 6th, so we're hoping to see you out there. So with Libertopia and with getting a place here in the East Valley to be able to do the show live, is that we can also, take the guitars out, I mean, I could bring the Les Paul and the bass, we could do some jamming. So if you're in the East Valley and you know of a place, East Valley, by the way, where we would be able to do that with a really good internet connection, definitely let me know. Frank Rizzo 3 is the Skype. So we want to go, he's been on the show before. We have John in Montana. Welcome back to the big show. You have good news for us?
Oh, I've seen in a video you had a while back that you said you were a vegan, right? And I was wanting to ask you, what nudged you, along the way? What information did you see or what arguments did you hear? Me in particular, I remember this one video that this one guy posted, reasons to go vegan presentation. That really convinced me, and yeah, you were one of the guys that I was watching when I was not vegan, and then you brought up that you were vegan, and I was like, I should look into that more. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, well, I'm glad I was able to help in some way. There's actually two live shows. So I was talking with Bill on one week. I'm sorry, Bill, I completely forgot the name of your podcast. But we were talking about inconsistent thoughts and inconsistent behavior. And what had been bothering me for a long time was that when I had mentioned to my father-in-law who grew up on a farm during the Depression of all, that if I had to kill an animal myself to be able to eat it, I couldn't do it, and I wouldn't. He says, "Well, you would if you had to." I don't think so. And so that led me to stop eating. When I confronted that, I decided I have to be consistent. I shouldn't be paying somebody to slaughter the animal, and so I went vegetarian there. And then Eyal of No State Project Israel, and big supporter of the show, by the way. I do appreciate that, Paisan. He took me to task the following week and set me straight that I wasn't being ethically or more ethically consistent, because if I support the dairy industry, which is just as bad as the meat industry. So that's what did it for, what really did it for me. I have to say, Eyal, yes, he wouldn't budge an inch. He wouldn't accept any of my excuses being Sicilian. And I had to be consistent with my ethical principle, do no harm. So that's really the basic of it.
So have you had any success with any people that you know turning them vegan? I haven't had much success at all, really.
Yes. Doug, who's a fellow Sicilian. Well, he's a fellow Guinea. I don't know if he's Sicilian. He and some of his family have. I was an influence on my daughter, and some of her friends have gone vegan. There's been a number of people. Calvin, who we sorely miss here at the show, Calvin went vegan and really, he lost 60 pounds. So if you can watch the video with him last year when he's in the home studio here. There's been a few people, and they've branched out. So we had a caller. I don't know yet, though, but Mr. Black from the East Coast, he hasn't called in yet. He said he was going to give it a shot.
So one more thing. I did want to ask you about Anarcho-Poco after I talked to you about this, but I do see in the chat here that there is some people that think veganism is ridiculous. Well, obviously, not that many people has had a good introduction to veganism. Like they are resistant. Like, what would you say, like, to show them that veganism actually is what you should do?
Well, you ask them. I mean, to me, look, I know there are a lot of people online, vegan YouTubers, and I think they cause themselves more trouble than it's worth. To me, it boils down to this. If you're not okay with just walking up and beating a pig with a hammer, then you're not okay with it being killed. And to me, that's as simple as it needs to be. If you're for hurting animals and you don't have any problem with that, then admit it. But don't turn around and be inconsistent and say, well, I'm not okay with animal cruelty, but I am okay with killing them, because killing them is cruelty. That's the way I put it. And even if if it's even not because you give a damn about animals, if you care about your own health, the number one killer is heart disease, and that's caused directly by eating, of course, animals, which raises your cholesterol. And yes, anyone who says that cholesterol has been proven not to raise your cholesterol level is dead wrong, because the studies always take people who have already very high cholesterol levels. So eating eggs and beef or whatnot will not have a dramatic effect on your cholesterol level. You have to go with someone like me or someone who has a normal cholesterol level, a vegan, only vegans, and then have them eat eggs and cholesterol, and then you can get an accurate reading on how much their cholesterol level spikes.
All the studies I've seen, like when it comes to antibiotic resistance, cholesterol, or the environment, like the doctors, you can tell that they have a bias, like they always downplay it, even though in the study you can find that meat and animal products is the main cause of it. And one other thing, I did want to bring up Anarcho-Poco. If anyone's listening, you can see like vegan anarchists speak at Anarcho-Poco. They make a pretty good case and reasons to go vegan. Anyone that's open-minded towards veganism, wanting to look into it, which I've said for a while now that it is a privilege to look at an idea which you thought was stupid your whole life and accept it if it is true, because like human civilization is not as good as it can be. But anyway, I did want to ask you this: are you going to go to Anarchapulco anytime soon?
No, I'm not able to do that. But I'm glad you brought up the veganism, and it seems to be a number of people who participate in that are vegans and are bringing more people to that. I think it comes down. It's very simple. I'm not saying that any of us are 100% ethically or morally consistent. We all have our shortfalls. But if we want and we value morality, we value ethics, which is why we're anarchists, then we have to work on being more consistent. And to me, I know I resisted it somewhat, but it came down to it was more important for me to be morally and ethically consistent than to not be. And so that's why I did it. It's, I think and Facebook is not a place to discuss, or YouTube is not a place to discuss veganism. I would suggest to you or anyone else, don't even engage in the discussion on veganism online, because even self-proclaimed anarchists will just lump you, will just pig pile on you and produce, show pictures of bacon and whatnot. But I'm out of time, and I wish you're gonna have to call in again earlier in the show so we could talk about veganism, John.
Oh, yeah, one thing about the bacon argument, I say...
well, hold on. Let me put you on hold. Hold on. They won't be able to hear you over the bumper, so we'll finish that in the next segment. We'll be back here on the No State Project in just a moment. Don't go away. Yeah, sorry about that, John. We'll finish in the next segment, so hold that thought about the bacon argument, or claim. I hate talking over this. Chris is one of my favorite guitar players. And so what I'm going to do is, this is Chris with Double Bucci, Same Old Blues, the Freddie King song. And I'm going to be putting together a YouTube video with the entire CD, Double Bucci from Key West. That's Chris Case and Carl Wagner on guitar. But that particular one was Chris Case. One of the other bumpers does have Carl playing on that song. Where Gary Moore would have given his approval, that's for damn sure. We want to bring back, we're talking about veganism. I'm glad John in Montana brought this up. John, I'm sorry we had to go to break. I know you can't listen, you can't hear the bumpers, but what were you going to say about the bacon, the butt bacon, though?
Well, anyway, I did edit what I'm about to say. This is a very good comeback. Like, bacon is a euphemism. Like, we would not be comfortable calling it pig body parts all the time. Like, chicken is a euphemism too, even though it comes pretty close to the real name. Beef is a euphemism. Like, I guarantee you that, like, they're not gonna say, I eat pig flesh and I'm okay with that. And also, like, you can show the slaughterhouse videos of, like, where the bacon came from. Like, they are not gonna watch any slaughterhouse videos you give them, even though they'll eat it, the animals that got slaughtered in the slaughterhouse, because they want to eat bacon and feel comfortable. Like, that's what you can say to them. Link them to slaughterhouse videos and say, tell me the literal definition. Don't talk about animal flesh like it's only a commodity. It's not. Like, animals, you can look up adapt.org. That website has a whole site of animal intelligence. And one thing I did want to bring up in the chat is this one guy I'm debating, like, keeps on saying that plants are sentient. Like this one video Mike the Vegan made. He's one of the best vegan YouTubers in my opinion.
Yes,
plants feel pain debunked.
I agree.
Like, I'm asking him to direct me to the study. He cannot prove any study that proves plants have brains or a central nervous system.
Yeah, they mistake a response to stimuli as sentience, and they don't have a brain, they don't have a nervous system, they can't have a subjective. And the thing is, when you're looking at the moral or the ethical aspect, if it is moral or ethical to kill and eat an animal, if your life literally depended on it, okay, it's a necessity for your own life. Some may disagree with that, okay. And the thing is, we have to eat plants to sustain our lives. We don't have a choice. So, but we do have a choice whether we need, most of us. We have a choice on whether we're going to kill and eat animals as opposed to not doing that, because we can get all our nutrition met with food, with plants and whole plant food. The butt bacon thing irritates me because it's not a legitimate argument. And what it comes down to is, and I don't want to even get into this, so your taste is more important than an animal's life, because you're going to get people that will say yes. And I'll disagree with you a bit, because I think there are people that can watch the slaughterhouse videos, and it doesn't bother them at all. They just keep going and eating bacon. They don't give a damn. I think a lot of that has to do with it is the herd mentality. It's because we're still a minority at this point. And I know people in my own life that I think that the idea of being labeled a vegan is worse than to take on the health risk and keep eating bacon and stuff like that.
Yeah, one argument, the best argument for veganism I wanted to make was the name the trait argument, which is like, what trait do humans have that gives them the right to life that animals do not have? Like, some people might say it's reasoning ability. Well, no one believes that. Like, let's take a dumb person and a genius. No one would say, well, the dumb person has less rights. He might depend on the smart person more, be prejudiced against the dumb person, but everyone agrees that the dumb person does not have less rights. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Well, that's another popular. Well, he's getting to be a lot more popular. You're talking about Isaac from the Ask Yourself YouTube channel, and that's his big thing: is name the trait that is that animals don't have that would justify also killing a human if the human did not have that particular trait. And so somebody did. Yeah, Kerry, don't call the live broadcast. Or the chat right now. Anyway, someone's got to connect him. Now, Ryan gets into this, and it's a very common one, and it's the idea that if animals aren't moral actors. And I think we can all agree to that. They're not. They can't conceptualize morals and ethics, so they can't. And so the position is, this is especially strong with voluntarists or anarchists or anyone with the non-aggression principle that see that as the be-all, end-all of everything. And they say, well, animals are not moral actors, so it's okay to do whatever the hell we want to them. And I'm thinking, I have a daughter with Down syndrome, and there's a broad spectrum with kids with Down syndrome. A lot of them can't conceptualize ethics and morals and don't know right from wrong. Is it okay to kill and eat them? It doesn't matter. Look, it doesn't matter if who you're acting against is a moral actor or not. The moral is judging your behavior, not who you're acting against. So this idea that, well, animals aren't moral actors, fungal with that. That doesn't justify needlessly killing an animal who wants to live as much as you or I do. It's a non-argument, really, is what it comes down to. I don't want anyone thinking I'm quoting somebody when I do that.
Oh, yeah, I just want to say one thing real quick, and this is important. I said, well, plants do not feel pain. I said animals feel pain. And then this one guy says, well, plants do too. What's your point? And I said something that he said, animals have he claimed that he claimed that plants were sentient. And then he was like, I didn't say they were sentient. And I was like, no, you said that they felt pain. If something feels pain, they are sentient. And in an allegory you can have for plants is that your heart, right, or your stomach is like a chemical computer. It can react to things, but it's not sentient. You see what I mean here?
Yeah. You're gonna run the gambit. I think it's good somebody put out the anti-vegan bingo, which is similar to the anti-anarchy bingo, and it's just addressing all the stupid claims like that. You know, it's someone saying here, plants know when they're being eaten. They don't have a brain. They can react to stimuli. Sure, we used to always have sunflowers, and they would turn and follow the sun. Does that mean that they're having a subjective experience? No, they don't have a nervous system. They can't have a subjective experience. Plants, though.
Okay, hold on. I need to scroll back, and I'm going to quote word for word what we said.
Okay, while you're scrolling, I just want to point out that when Eyal of No State Project Israel, when he and I were having the discussion, I don't want anyone to think that when I said that he wouldn't let me go. I don't want anyone to have to misinterpret that. Eyal is not a douche. He's a really good, compassionate guy.
Hold on. I need to say this. Animals are sentient beings that can feel pain. And then this one guy, Oscob007, says, so do plants. What's your point? After I say animals can feel pain, well, everyone in the universe will say if something can feel pain, they're sentient, right? And then I claim that he said animals are sentient on the phone. And then he's like, no, I did not say they were sentient, you liar. Like, I'm guessing he's either like he really does not get veganism or he's just a paid troll or something like that.
It could be. Look, it's a matter of being ethically consistent. That's what it comes down to. So if anyone's against animal cruelty, to be ethically consistent, you have to be vegan. That's the be all end all. This whole thing about a humane slaughter, no, killing something that doesn't want to die is cruel. So, hey, I got to run. I do appreciate the call. I called earlier in the show and we can discuss veganism more.
All right.
Appreciate it. My name's Marc Stevens, the No State Project here. We're going into the last segment. Wow. So we'll get one more call in, so don't go away. We'll be right back. Yes, welcome back to the No Stay Project here on the Liberty Radio Network and streaming live on my YouTube channel. Don't get married to this live stream. I know the audio is not in sync. I will be uploading the better audio and video on Monday, so remember, I will be deleting that. And I wanted to finish here. I appreciate John in Montana's call. Always like to discuss ethics and morals. Because that's really what this is. It comes down to the No State Project is to have a more moral, ethical society, which is why we talk about anarchy. That you don't have to force people to pay you in order to have a civilized, ordered society. But I was pointing out that Eyal was never a jerk. The reason why he called to have me, be more consistent was because he's a compassionate guy. He's interested in anarchy. He's interested in a voluntary society. And he saw that someone he knows and cares about was being inconsistent. And I was. And he called me out on that. And at no time was he a douche. He wasn't one of these, what anti-vegans call just a preachy, overbearing vegan. He just saw that I was inconsistent, and he walked me through the same process that I use every day. And it was just shining a spotlight on my own inconsistencies. So just to clear that up, that Eyal at no point was ever overbearing. I never thought he was being preachy. I never thought he was being pushy. And you don't have to be. I think that's just the defense mechanism people have when they are being inconsistent in their morals, in their ethics, and their behavior. So that the behavior is not consistent with the ethic. So my ethic was do no harm. And obviously, if I'm supporting the dairy industry, I might not have been eating meat at the time. That was a short week. But I was doing harm, unnecessary harm. And we have a new caller. So just want to point out, but plants have feelings? No, they don't. They don't have a brain. They don't have a nervous system. They react to stimuli, just like my sunflower was turning with the sun. Doesn't mean that they feel pain. All right, want to get to one last caller of area code 802. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Lynn. I'm from Vermont, but I'm calling from Florida.
Oh, I bet you're happy about that.
No, I don't like Florida. I'm the one that just got the information from you because I'm going to court on Thursday.
Oh, okay, I got it. I was thinking more of the weather.
Well, I'm not down here for pleasure, so it hasn't worked out. It's been crummy, although right now I'm in a very good situation, so it should get easier.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you believe that this is a trial? And the judge is, I think, a bit confused. He told me the last time that the traffic tickets, the 3 traffic tickets, are criminal offenses, and that resisting arrest is a civil offense. I thought it was the other way around. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I have a question. Is it better to have a trial by jury? Oh, it wouldn't be a trial by jury. It would be a jury trial, because he won't give me a trial by jury. Or is it better to have a bench trial? I think with a bench trial I can hold him liable, but I don't know. I really don't know which way is better. What do you suggest? What would you do in my shoes?
I have a tough time with this. I guess what would sway me to do something maybe the way, and this may be different for you. I think I'm a little more. I don't want this to sound arrogant. It's not from an arrogant point, but I've done this a long time, and I'm very confident in my speaking ability, and I'm very confident that from doing so many seminars and workshops and speaking in front of people, that I'm pretty confident in my speaking ability, my persuasiveness, that I would be able to at least be able to reach one person on the jury, so that at the very least I'd be able to hang the jury and not get convicted at least that time. Because what I've seen from other juries, and I'll go back to the standard one, the judge in Larkin Rose's case, and we have a firsthand personal knowledge of this because he testified to this several times on the show, and it's in his book Kicking the Dragon. The judge in that case said in front of the jury at least once, Mr. Rose, I believe you were sincere in your belief that you were not required to pay taxes. That was the whole case. The judge should have thrown it out on that alone, but he still passed it off to the jury who convicted him. That was very clear that the jury should have heard what the judge said and been like, oh, we don't have to convict this guy as much as we may not like him. But they convicted him anyway. And then Jim was convicted, James up in Alaska, and then we had a split decision with Rebecca in Chandler, where the witness was thoroughly impeached by the prosecutor and the judge, and they only acquitted her of one charge. So I guess it's my rambling way of saying I can't tell you what's best for, if you're very good at public speaking, you might be able to persuade at least one of the jurors to do the right thing and not convict. I don't know.
I can speak well in public. It's just remembering all the stuff that I've just packed into my little brain in the last couple of months. But I find it difficult in my mind to convince either 6 or 8 or 12 or whatever they're going, throw at me. 6 people that are so brainwashed down here and are so dumbed down that what I'm saying is truth, and that what the judge is saying, or the judge sticks his 2 cents in every minute. The prosecutor's still wet behind the ears. He's pretty dumb, and he told me, he accused me. He was my accuser. I announced in the large, loud voice, who accuses me? And that's usually a showstopper. No, it didn't stop him. He said, I do. I accuse you. I said, you accuse me? He said, yes. I'd never laid eyes on that guy. This was in November. I never laid eyes on the guy until the beginning of October. I think he's so new to the game, he doesn't even know what he's saying.
Well, that may be true. But, all right, well, we're almost out of time, so let's address this. Something you were saying that you don't believe that what you're saying, that the truth that you're bringing out, that they're going to be able to accept or understand. You want to keep in mind that what we're doing is showing that we are destroying the facade of legitimacy, not only for the proceedings, but for the prosecution's claim. So we need the jury to understand that the prosecutor doesn't have evidence and may actually be arguing he doesn't need evidence. But we have to be able to at least explain to the jury when the prosecutor says his witness is incompetent to give legal conclusions, the jury needs to understand the prosecution just impeached their own witness. Now, you may think that I'm guilty, and the judge will tell you otherwise, that you have to make your decision based on the evidence that was presented. And what was presented here today was that the prosecution and the judge both agreed that the witness was incompetent to say, I broke the law. You cannot, even though the judge is allowing that in against due process and the rules, you have to remember, you can only go based on the evidence. This man was not qualified to do that. You heard it for yourself. And then you could bring in the due process violations, and hopefully the judge doesn't threaten you with that. But that's what we need to be explaining to the jury. And I think most people understand that. And I think that's why Rebecca at least got an acquittal on one of the charges in Chandler, Arizona. But I think because of the nature of her charges, they figured, look, we can't let her, and I'm speculating here, they probably figured we have to convict on one of them. Just because the cop was incompetent to determine probable cause and whatnot doesn't mean we should let her get away with what she did. So I would probably err on the side of getting the jury. and hoping that you can connect with one of them, that one of them will understand if the witness isn't competent, that's a denial, and they keep the testimony anyway, it's a denial of a fair trial. And I would spoon feed them and say, ladies and gentlemen, I have two contradictory statements from the judge. He said the witness was competent, and then he said he was incompetent. Which one is it? He said he was incompetent, but he won't strike the testimony. This is a no-brainer on appeal. And then you all saw with your own eyes he wouldn't allow me to cross-examine the cop. There's no way that if you convict me that this can survive appeal. Please don't do this. Do the right thing now. Don't make me have to appeal this and possibly sit in jail when they go to reverse this travesty.
Okay. Now, if you put the matter up for appeal immediately, can they still stick me in jail?
They might, yes. You have to get a stay of proceedings.
Stay of proceeding. Well, the whole case is absurd. The first thing they did was basically arrest me, and then they gave me 3 tickets. And then after I was in the car, chained in the car, then he read my Miranda rights. I mean, this whole thing has been denial of due process from the very beginning.
But wait. Let me explain before. Wait. It's very important. I want to explain to everybody. Just because they don't read you your Miranda does not mean you're going to get it thrown out. They only throw out testimony or statements that you gave after they read you your rights and you said you wanted, or when they didn't. So if they don't read you your rights and you start answering questions, they can't use that against you. If you aren't answering their questions, they're not going to throw out the testimony. But it doesn't mean they throw the whole thing out. They only throw out the testimony or the statements. So we're out of time, so contact me all fair for more help. My name is Marc Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, and also on my YouTube channel. Until next time, salud.